Welcome in. It's Thursday, November 7th with the EBDB Weekly Update. I'm your host, Tim Sorrells, and this week I've traded in Brett for a co-host with a better beard. How's it going, Danny?
Doing pretty well, Tim, and thanks for the compliment. I'd say Brett's beard is pretty impressive these days, though, so it's a tough competition.
That's not a tough competition because his beard is gross. That's maybe aggressive. He has a very large beard, and it's gotten very long.
He's going for the Cooper Cup look.
It's like he's in a playoff hockey season and he can't shave his beard yet, just letting it go. But
yeah,
he's.
I don't know if you remember.
He's mentioned.
I don't know if you remember Eric Weddle. This is maybe a decade ago. He said he wouldn't shave until the Chargers won the Super Bowl, and then oh man, it was pretty disgusting.
Because that beard would be touching the ground right now because the Chargers probably will never win a Super Bowl.
No.
I think Brett's actually going to Austin this week. I might be mixing my trips up for him, but I know he's traveling this week. And he's supposed to get cleaned up by his barber, where she's going to get him looking good again. So maybe next week in the podcast, the rest of this group we can judge who's a better beard, you versus Brett next week.
All right.
That'll be the new debate. So you're in Colorado. You and Kate liking that?
Yeah, enjoying the snow. It's got like 6 inches last night, so getting ready for ski season.
We were talking about this before, but it's just funny that you've lived in San Diego your whole life, and now all of a sudden it's going to be a winter of snow and having to shovel your driveway and having to experience cold.
Yeah, my one qualification for moving out to Denver was Kate's actually going to be the one shoveling the driveway. So
feminism at its best, right?
Absolutely.
I don't think she's going to do it.
Equality. You got to fight for equality.
Right. Yeah. Sure. I wish you the best, and I hope that maybe she'll shovel it once or twice for you, but I just don't see that one playing out the way you expect it to. But I like where your head's at. Good luck.
Mm.
Well, things have been happening in the league. More trades. I thought for a while it'd be just Brett and I completing our single trade, but then it looks like Brett bent Alex over the barrel and took Jefferson from him. What did you think about that?
I mean, Jefferson's the number 2 receiver in the league. It's hard to try and say anything else. And Debo's been hit and miss, and Flowers is going to have his ups and downs all season. And I think it showed tonight, just looking at who Lamar was thrown to and who they're getting the ball to. There's just too many people on Baltimore that can score. And I feel like his value is going to be so capped just because of that.
And Debo's hurt. So it's like, Is Debo even going to play this week and be usable? When I saw that trade go through, I'm like, oh, Alex, that's just like, it's such a huge mistake. And I ran it through one of the websites I have to see how does it impact their teams. And it was a pretty massive shift in Alex's performance for the rest of the season. He doesn't have any depth, so in some ways it makes sense. But you still can't give up the best guy.
Back, I feel like Debo's value gets capped too. Just CMC is going to take away a lot of those touches.
It's probably true. The funniest part was that Brett reached out to me, offered me the same trade for AJ Brown, and I told him no. I'm like, absolutely not. Not going to do this. And then he's like 2 days later, was like, can you give me Alex's number? I'm going to pitch him a trade. Do you think he'd go for the classic 2-for-1 or the 2-for-1 Brett special? And I'm like, nobody wants the 2-for-1 Brett special. Absolutely not. And then lo and behold, the next day he accepted it. So it's just.
I actually offered it. I countered Brett with a 2-for-1 for it was going to be Devontae Smith for Tracy and Zay Flowers. And okay. I need a running back. I'm hurting at running back pretty bad. I just don't have a third. I have 0. So as soon as one of them has a bye, I need a running back in a bad way. I keep picking up new players every day just to hope, picking up picking up who's the new guy that played tonight. Why can't I think of his name? For Cincinnati, they came in for one play.
Khalil Herbert. Yeah, you did great.
Yeah, Herbert. Oh, what's Herbert? Okay, yeah.
But, that could be a low-key pickup for you, though, because he could have value as the year goes on. It's just week 1, he's not going to play, obviously. Doesn't know the offense or anything.
That one touch was pretty good for fumble come out of the game.
Oh, did he actually fumble his only run?
Yeah. It was great. A perfect handoff right into his chest, and ball's gone.
Well, he hasn't played all season. He's been playing for the Bears and been sitting on the bench, so he's probably a little bit rusty. So Yeah, $3 a fab. You might have just lit that on fire, but whatever. Who cares?
I'm probably dropping
Just
them.
fab.
Yeah,
You can't now. You got to hold them. You got to give them a week. Let them get into the offense and figure it out.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, you got into waivers here. I feel like I lit 14 fab on fire taking Gesicki after having a few big weeks. That was a bit of a dice roll for me, but it was hoping that with Higgins out, you get more of an opportunity. Boatload of targets just didn't wrangle him.
I mean, yeah, they ran 3 tight ends a lot of the time. There was some guy named Irving or something like that even caught a couple passes. And yeah, I think, we looked at that with a likely in the beginning of the year, and I think people aren't expecting them to get catches. And then once they see it, then they start playing around it. I think Otten's going to be a lot more ceiling this week than he was the last 2 weeks when defense see this guy's getting 13 targets a game. We probably should cover that guy.
Yeah, they probably should. The rest of the fab, though, was not too much going on. Brett Johnson snagged Justin Herbert for 11 fab, which I think is probably a low-key good pickup there, with the Chargers finally throwing the ball a bit more. We'll see if he actually needs them. I'm not sure if Brett has a different QB he plans on rolling out. Oh, Kyler.
Yeah, Kyler's hit and miss, right? So that's any given week, Kyler's going to put up 25 or 5. So
do you remember seeing the Kyler Murray's stats before and after the Call of Duty new maps are released or the updates go out? I'll find that really fast because there's a really funny dot plot of his performance when Call of Duty updates release in the middle of the football season, because he's great for the first half. Call of Duty comes out for the updates, tanks, and he's just I'm pretty sure they put it in his contract. It's you can't be up all night playing Call of Duty. And now he's sponsored by Call of Duty too. So it's just hilarious. But the maps got released, I think 2 weeks ago. And he hasn't been good the past 2 weeks. So it's just amusing that the trend kind of lives on here. And I'll have to figure out, I'll have to find this little dot plot or whatever and toss it up over our faces in post so that people can see what this says. Because it cracks me up that a video game release is correlated to his actual performance in real life.
The NFC West teams are going to start sponsoring different maps to come out at different times of the year
during their matchups. That way, Kyler plays all night long before their matchup. That would be funny.
Yeah, Rams are going to
do a game plan when you
LA
can just
with SoFi Stadium and everything.
That would be funny. That would be really amusing. Was there anybody else on waivers that you thought was a good pickup this week for people?
I think just more backups and everything like that, right? I mean, Braylon Allen, he's one of those that he feel like he could be good. He's this huge. I've had him, and Brett had him, and a couple other people have had him already. And with Breece Hall kind of flattening out a little bit, it's interesting to see if he actually will do anything. He hasn't really come out of his shell yet, but I think there's definitely still potential. He's a big guy. Yeah, he
that's a player that I think you should have out in your roster. You never should have let Max take him. It's Breece is your big quarterback, big running back, and if he goes down, not having Braylon Allen's going to hurt because he'll just take the full load.
Yeah. My problem is I needed a third running back and during bye week coming up in 2 weeks, it doesn't help me. So I could have held him for another week or so, but no matter what, I was probably going to have to drop him anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is almost like handcuff season though, where people need to grab their people, gear up for the playoffs, and take the ones that are valuable. I guess you have to hope they're available at this point.
That's the hope.
And the rest of it was pretty boring. Lots of people taking their defenses and kickers and not much else happening on fab. Just a time of the year where we already have all the good players stashed at this point, and waivers are pretty barren. Even though probably Katie should be a little more active on waivers. Her team's looking a little bit tough. So Katie, if you're listening here, purge the bench, ditch the stragglers, find some new people for your team.
Yeah, and I feel like the tight ends are week to week. I mean, Lizzie picked Hunter Henry up, and it's he might go off for 30 next game, or he might have 2 catches for 7 yards. So there's a lot of those out there. That's just
classic tight end streaming, though. It always plays out that way, where it's who has a good matchup, play him this week, dump him. Maybe somebody else will grab him in 2 weeks. So we'll see. Well, let's jump into the Week 9 recap here. So the first one we have on the sheet here is actually your matchup, you versus Chris. Going into the week, you're favored 131 to 125. Ended up winning by a pretty wide margin here. What do you think was the difference for your team?
Again, I think it's the 3 tight end strategy coming into play.
Can't go wrong.
Also known as the you don't have any bench depth, so just put whoever you can in and hope for the best. Having Devontae have a good game with AJ Brown going down, but I think AJ Brown's coming back this week, so we'll see if and he's hurting, so we'll see if he's going to be capped this week. And then Jacoby Myers really has just taken over for the Devontae Adams spot on the Raiders. I mean, Brock Bowers is definitely getting some receptions still, but they're the only 2 guys in the team, so they're getting all the touches, and they have essentially no running game either. It's having him has actually been super clutch.
And your bench is looking awfully weak, like you mentioned there. It's really just Ridley and, well, I guess Jameson Williams. It's not as bad as I say it was, because like you do have Ridley, you have Pittman, you have Jameson Williams, who should be 3 good players, but which ones you can start on any given week is a toss-up. And Jameson, I don't know, he's off steroids now. Is he going to be any good?
No. You never know those guys coming back after they're getting caught for steroids.
Yeah.
Oh man, but
his thing was the funniest too.
On Chris's team, it's tough with Tyreek Hill. You think, okay, 2 is back, 2 games in, he should be getting 300 yards, and he's still got 80, but it's not Tyreek Hill numbers, only getting 5 targets. So thankful for that. And then Aaron Jones just got completely stifled. 21 carries for 64 yards.
Yeah, you just had a week where everything went right for you and everything went wrong for Chris. So there's not really much else to add on that one for his team. Usually I would say that Puka getting himself thrown out of the game for throwing a punch would be a major issue. But when the rest of his team did nothing, it really didn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things here. Except maybe just reduces tiebreaker points for points for when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I went through and actually looked at Josh Allen's numbers, because he really isn't carrying the ball like he used to. He slides a lot more, runs out of bounds. He had 15 rushing touchdowns last season, and this year through 10 games he has 2. He's just at the goal line. It's just not him anymore, right? It's James Cook. They're just handing him the ball, and so his fantasy value gets way capped doing that.
Yep. A lot of quarterbacks is happening that way this year, except Jalen Hurts. It seems he still gets his tush push into the end zone. Everybody else is being a little bit more cautious.
Yeah.
Our next matchup on the list here was Katie versus myself. I came into that one favored 130 to 112, and we wrapped up about at projections 131 to 117. Katie still has a rough go. We talked about it before, where her team is a little bit thin on the bench, and starting Deontay Johnson and getting a dud out of him very clearly hurts. But that was almost, you look at her roster and you wonder who else would she have played at that point instead of him. I mean, we're going to tease this later in the weekly awards, but we already knew he wasn't going to play. They already said he's going to get 10 or 15 snaps over the course of this week as he learns the offense. So it's getting a dud isn't a surprise necessarily. But who else is better?
Yeah, there isn't. You could have put in Tolbert, right? But still, it's best. Yeah, not a great option anyway.
Because even Tolbert, his projections was 9 points, which is, I guess it's something. It was still just one of those scenarios where, do you actually want to start Jalen Tolbert, the 3rd receiver on the Cowboys, when the offense isn't playing well? That doesn't inspire much confidence.
No.
I was
CJ Stroud's really.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was going to say CJ Stroud's just really been a disappointment fantasy-wise this season without Collins, there. So with him coming back, maybe there's a lot more upside for him. But, pretty flat.
Yeah, and Stroud last year, everybody was so impressed with him as a rookie, but I think people just forget that he was only good at home against bad defenses and then just ate them alive in the rest of the season against the good defenses and on the road. Very mediocre in terms of performances. We wouldn't want to start him. And it's kind of looking like more of the same this year, where he could be good, just he's more of a streaming quarterback than somebody you want to start every week. And I started saying it before, but I was pretty thrilled that I got one more CMC-less week for Katie and didn't have to face him. It would have been a little upsetting if every other team in the league got to face Katie without CMC, and his first week back is my turn to play her. like at the very end of the cycle. So somebody else's problem now.
Yeah, and again, back-to-back weeks for A-Chain, just like, whatever, eight for eight, in PPR leagues. What else do you want? That's the run game for Miami. So I expect to see that a lot more going forward, where his floor is going to be 20.
I know. I'm very excited to have Achan on this team again. He was pretty useless without Tua, but now that Tua's back, it's looking good.
Yep.
Next matchup here was Brett Johnson versus Alex, with Brett favored 124 to 117. Alex finished right at projections at 118, but Brett exceeded by quite a bit at 146 here. What do you think about these two?
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore putting up 41 on Denver was pretty surprising. I mean, Denver's defense has been solid all season, and Baltimore made them look like a joke. I mean, the run game and the pass game was on fire. So, yeah, obviously that worked well for Brett, putting up 26 from Henry and 30 from Flowers.
And it must have been this Flowers performance that made Alex want to trade Jefferson here, because there wasn't much. I don't know. We'll bash Alex the rest of the day on this stupid trade, but this must have swayed him in some way. Watching Flowers just put up points on him. Now, here's your hard question of the night, Danny: is Alex's team a fraud? Is he the worst number one ranked team you've ever seen?
At this point, yes. I mean, the Jordan Mason pickup was obviously the best draft pick, right, at the time, because he ended up having 9 weeks of just awesomeness. But San Francisco's gotten worse, and now he's going to be a bench player. So it's like his number one running back is off the team. Chubb is not Chubb. He's just not what he was before the injury. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, still having Cook and Mixon, he's got a good team, but without Jefferson now, I think he's in a lot of trouble.
I agree with you. Sorry, Alex. I wasn't going to say it, but Danny called you a fraud, so it's official. It is decided. We'll see how it goes.
He was the best team, and not anymore.
I wouldn't necessarily say he was the best team based on like roster. He definitely had some favorable match. His team was very good some weeks. Like looking back on week 8, I think it was, he had 160 points, 166 points against Lizzie. And then this week has nothing. So it's just like his team's very volatile, and not having bench very clearly hurts him. But I don't know. I still wouldn't have given up his best player. You can't do that. So he's a fraud. Yeah. It's been decided. He probably doesn't even listen to this podcast. So I don't even know we call him a fraud.
The votes are in. No recount needed.
Our next one, no recount needed. You're a fraud, Alex. You're voted out, impeached. See you later. Out the door. Our next one here was Brett Colleton versus Sam, with Sam favored to win 127 to 120. In the end, won 157 to 149. Brett kind of called it last week in his analysis for this matchup. He anticipated it being a close one that he thought he was going to lose. And in the end, tough loss for him, where he has the third most points of the week, but runs into Sam, who has the second highest score. So just tough matchup there, and the timing just didn't work out for him.
No, it was tough. I mean, going against, giving up 16 to Taysom Hill, and it's like that guy is either going to get 0 points or can get 30 points, but getting 16 is obviously a nice touch. And then Garrett Wilson having a career game, getting 9 catches. So it was going to be hard to beat that.
Definitely. And the funniest thing was Brett's kicker missed 2 kicks that would have given him the win by a tiny fraction on this. So it's absurd that kickers can make that big of a difference in your league. And it's a guy who's never missed this season and then goes ahead and misses 2 field goals. So Brett's got to be kicking himself for that one.
Yeah. And, on his bench too, leaving Dobbins out and 24 points and Johnson out for 22. And it's probably wouldn't have started Johnson, but Dobbins could have for sure been in there. But anyway, I don't know who would have started him over though, right? Because Kamara and Taylor, Taylor's just unlucky.
Yeah, and he's got to be regretting the Taylor trade at least through 2 weeks. It could pay off for him in the long run, but having Lamb, who's played well the past 2 weeks and put up big scores, and then having Jonathan Taylor this week, who had his worst game of the season, and then probably cost him the win on that. Because if he If we would have kept Lamb, would have been an upgrade over Brian Thomas for sure. And then he would have been forced to start Dobbins in his running back slot, which would have given him the easy win. But it's all hindsight analysis. Brett thinks he needs a running back. I don't think he needed one as bad as he thought he did. But he made the move when he got somebody. It just hasn't paid off this week.
Mm-hmm.
Our last one here was Lizzie versus Max. This was the matchup of the week, with Max favored to win 141 to 132. And Lizzie ended up winning this one 145 to 129. Saquon has been a beast. This guy just keeps scoring. And you think that Hurts is going to take some of his points from him, and they're both just scoring. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone's so nervous to take Saquon early, right? Because like CMC, he's played half the season most of the time, and he doesn't get more than a few games in before he's down for half the season. So, but his Max, right, when he's actually healthy, is just so talented. I mean, that reverse leap was one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time.
It looked like a movie because there's no way. Like, how does he know to do that? Okay, do one spin, do a half spin, jump backwards, and then like still keep going. It looked ridiculous on the play.
Yeah,
like, it couldn't be real.
And it's so interesting because I feel like it's easy to criticize players for making certain moves and like not seeing things, but like wearing a football helmet and trying to see everything that's going on. And now he's completely turned around with all that gear on and doing that kind of move. Man, that's impressive.
It was definitely impressive. So yeah, Barkley had a great game, but then also Lizzie finally, I shouldn't say finally, but St. Brown looked good this week. Mooney was good. Bowers was good. So getting good performances out of her four key guys definitely made the difference for him or for her. And
yeah,
did you see that Olave hit? You mentioned you didn't get to watch much football, but that hit was brutal.
Yeah, I didn't see it. But
it was another play where Derek Carr threw a terrible hospital ball, left Olave out there, and just got lit up. And then you might have seen the Michael Thomas tweets afterwards, but he just like went on a rant on Twitter right after that and just basically announced to the world how much he hates Derek Carr and how much Derek Carr sucks at football. So it's just hilarious how much he hates that guy.
Yeah. Max's depth at running back is pretty sincere. I can see why he's trying to trade one away right now because he's got 4 solid running backs. 5, really, with Dowdle being stepping up a little bit. I don't know that Dowdle's ever putting up 21 points again, but yeah, I mean, he's going to get a lot of touches now that Cooper Rush is a quarterback, and yeah, be interesting to see.
He should. I think I know Max tossed a whole bunch of running backs onto the trade block here. Very convenient timing to toss Kareem Hunt on the trade block after it's announced that Pacheco's coming back, and probably will lose some of his value. I think he'll still be solid, but I don't see him being an 18-point-a-week guy anymore. And I guess he's probably had another week or two for Pacheco, but still.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's like I feel, Kareem Hunt comes in and gets like 18 right off the board, but most of those guys have already been playing for 6 games and getting beat up for 6 weeks. And he comes in and you look at how hard he was running, and like that for his first game, he was going after everyone. It's like, okay, now that you're 5 games into getting hit a lot, nobody can run like that and survive.
I think also he had a point to prove because he was so bad last year. Like Kareem Hunt looked washed that people like to the point like he's dropped all over the place and nobody wanted to do anything to do with him. And he's like, I have a chance. I know the offense here. Kansas City can run the ball. I'm just going to go hard and maybe I'll have a job next year.
And he's doing all that without any catches either, right? Like they used to have half his points come from just getting receptions, and they're not throwing the ball to him at all. But
I didn't even look at that. Points. But you're right. 1 reception. That's nothing.
No, and I'm sure if you compare it to like 2022 or something like that, I'm sure he's catching 5-6 passes a game, maybe. Let's see, 4, 3, 3,
Absolutely.
4. Yeah. So anyway, interesting to see.
We'll see what Max can do with his roster. He'll definitely be shipping somebody off to somebody in the near future. It's just a matter of who that player ends up being. Maybe it's you, Danny. You need a running back.
Yeah, I just don't have anybody else to trade him. So
who do you want to buy? We'll talk about how bad they are and why they're worth nothing on the podcast right now, and just talk their value down. And you can just be like, here, have this garbage off my bench for your running back. Max will totally fall for that. All right. Well, that wraps up the Week 9 recap here. Let's get into the weekly awards. So, stud of the week, we talked about this one already. It was Saquon Barkley. Guy looks ridiculous, can do whatever he wants, jumping over people backwards, just kind of absurd. 33 points, 2 touchdowns, 200 combined yards. That's just totally insane on that one. Our runner-up for this was Devon Achane. Almost the same amount of points, actually, and continues to be the leading target for the Dolphins, which is a welcome addition to my team. So I'm appreciative that Tua is back and Achane's looking fantastic. Do you want to take us through dud of the week?
Yeah, just one more point on the Dolphins. It's interesting to see how much Waddle has dropped off. Like, even with Tua back, I expect him why isn't he getting touches? And honestly, all the balls are just going to Achane, and then he's just not getting looked at. And he's a great receiver.
He should be great, but he's not. And then you say Waddle, but it's like hilarious that he didn't have a good game, and then he proceeded to run like 25 yards backwards and lose 2.5 points on the last play of the game on that, which is such a silly rule that on those trick plays at the end for like the laterals, whoever is the last one to get tackled eats all the yards of the loss, even if it wasn't their fault. So weird nuances of the league, I guess.
Yeah. So moving on to the dud of week, the winner is Puka, getting ejected from the game with only 1 catch. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad news bears right there.
And who punches someone in the head with the helmet? How stupid is that?
No. You got to do the Myles Jarrett of taking someone's helmet off and then hitting them over the head with the helmet. That's the real aggressive.
That's the move. That's the move. Yeah. Puka, take notes.
Yeah. And then the runner-up there was Jonathan Taylor. Just with Flacco back, you'd think he'd be putting up big numbers again, but worst performance of the season. So, that Lamb-Taylor trade, like we talked about earlier, not working out for Brett.
Not yet. We'll see how it plays out. Lots of the season left. But yeah, not pretty so far. For Michael J. Fox, shaky start of the week, this is Deontay Johnson. We talked about it before, but the Ravens announced it pretty well in advance that he was only going to get 10 or 15 snaps that game. So getting 0 points out of him, absolutely not a surprise. And we chatted about it. Who else would Katie have started instead? I don't know. I would have gone to the waiver wire and found somebody who had a good matchup and just hope for the best. Because I couldn't imagine starting him week 1 with a new team. We saw it last week with, or 2 weeks ago with Hopkins as well, who I'd argue is a better receiver, like more experienced and better over his career.
And I would make the point he may be winning that 2 weeks in a row after getting his 2 targets, one of them falling down the game tonight. So,
yeah, that was unfortunate. He was wide open too. He would have gotten like a decent amount of yards in that play and just slipped, which is so unfortunate.
Yeah. And I was going to say, we might already have the dud of the week, and we probably already have the stud of the week with Chase putting up a 50 burger, but we'll wait to see what happens on Sunday.
I think so. This one here is usually Brett's, the Michael Scott No God Please No Award. But this is no longer the player Brett is most scared of playing. It's the player Danny is most scared of playing. So who is it?
Right now, I think it's Jalen Hurts. I mean, his floor is $1 million. I think he's going to be hard to stop, especially now with Goddard coming back, and especially if Devontae plays. So he's going to have a lot of weapons against Dallas right now, whose offense is in shambles. So I think they're going to get the ball in good field position a whole bunch of times, and they're just going to keep moving down the field and scoring.
Yeah, he's going to be a tough guy to play against, and it's not going to be fun for people. Absolutely. The curse is semi-paused because Brett last week called Achane his award winner for this. And Achane not only made it out healthy, but looked fantastic. So we'll see if you can bring the curse back and break Jalen Hurts for us. Because that would really make Alex's team a fraud if he lost his best player. For the Jesse Pinkman, he can't keep getting away with it award, this is going to be Ramondre Stevenson. Back-to-back game with 20 points. Looks fantastic on the outside, but his underlying stats have been pretty rough. Nothing is good about his yards per carry or the amount of touches he's getting. It's just ugly, and touchdowns are carrying him. So I'm expecting him against the Bears this week not to look very good. and probably not to look good the rest of the season. He's going to be a very matchup-dependent guy who's going to be, do I score a touchdown? Okay, then you're happy. If he doesn't, I don't think. Is Max the owner of Ramondre? I'm pretty sure Max owns him. You do? Oh, sorry. Your guy sucks, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots are terrible. It's just if they get in scoring position, he's the only guy that gets the ball, so therefore he scores.
Yeah. And last week's winner for this was Zay Flowers. Last week he was fantastic. So again, curse paused, but this week very mediocre with 7 points. So maybe I was just a week too soon on my curse.
Could be.
Well, that's it for the weekly awards here. We're going to take a quick break here and hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll get back into the Week 10 preview.
Breaking news. In a world where fantasy football outcomes are determined by the whims of the football gods, one man stands up and says, "This is not the result we deserve."
Folks, I've seen the numbers, and I can tell you what just happened in this matchup. It's a hoax. That's right. A total fantasy football hoax. Do you see that score? 145. Are you kidding me? They said it was a fair matchup, but I know the truth. There's something fishy going on here. Max's running back was supposed to score 2 touchdowns. He got 0. That's a conspiracy. I demand a recount. I want the points rechecked. I want every stat, every last yard, every single touchdown scrutinized. Because I know the truth. This game was rigged. It was stolen from him.
Max O'Brien. He's demanding a recount because your fantasy football rights matter. You've got the right to win, and he's going to make sure you do. Give your support to Max O'Brien, the only manager who has the balls to make this league great again.
All right, welcome back in. Max, didn't know you were pulling a good old Donald on us, demanding a recount and calling this a hoax, but, here we are. Now let's get into Week 10 preview. All right, so looking at his matchups here, Danny, I always do this where I don't adjust the orders. So this one is myself versus Brett. And I'm actually favored 129 to 128 before this week's matchup started. I don't know, my gut feeling is that I have a shot if my players aren't hurt, but every week my players are hurt. So I think that's my feeling of what this matchup's going to come down to in the end is who's actually available. If Lamb plays, if AJ Brown can come back and be healthy, and if Brian Robinson can play, then it should be a closer matchup. But if I lose one or two of those guys, I think it's going to be a blowout, and Brett's just going to take it. Do you have any thoughts on this matchup or what the difference is going to be?
I think it makes a difference too if Nico Collins comes back and actually plays. So if he actually can come out and play like he played in the first few weeks, Brett's team looks a lot better. Not having to start Cooper or Thomas, or both kind of playing questionably right now.
Right.
It does limit Dell's capability, but can make it much more interesting.
And that should be a high-scoring matchup, too, in Detroit. So if Nico's back, that's not going to be a good look for me. I imagine that's going to be a pretty high-scoring game when it's all said and done.
Tim, I guess my question for you is who you're starting at running back if Robinson doesn't play?
Oh, dude, I have no clue. Probably I'll be stuck with Algier again, to be honest. And he's only good because of touchdowns as well. And good's a stretch. He got 7 or 8 points last week, and 6 of those points was a touchdown he stole from Bijan. But I think the positive is that New Orleans is really bad, and odds are he'll probably vulture another touchdown from Bijan this week if the game's out of hand. This is my aside. I was trying to trade with Sam last week, and Sam, we have beef. I'm irritated with you. I approached her for a trade last Thursday, trying to get Eckler off her team with the hope of just handcuffing him to Brian Robinson. That way they have somebody to play. We're talking for a bit, ignores me, and then she takes it right down to the wire a minute before the game and say, nah, I'm going to keep him. It's all this back and forth, and she's trying to pitch a brand new trade. The game's about to start in 3 minutes, and she's trying to rip up a whole framework of what we proposed before, and demands Mostert and somebody else for Eckler. And I'm absolutely not. This is just a no. No, we're done. Stop. Go away. It's just so ridiculous. Wanted to Strangler for a second.
Playing hardball over there.
No, she wasn't playing hardball. It was I don't know, Danny. I was pulling up the messages from her. She's like, I don't know. I'm so nervous about trading. And I'm like, is this a negotiation tactic, Sam, where you're just like pretending to be scared to trade and scared to pull the trigger so that way I really up the ante and do it? Because like, it's not going to work. You're just making me irritated with you.
Sam's been in the league at least like 3 years now, right?
This is year 2, I think. Maybe it's year 3.
Year 2.
At least she responds though, because Leslie, I called her Leslie. We always do this. Leslie was the worst.
That's
I shouldn't say the worst. That's an exaggeration. But at least Sam sets her roster, responds to messages, and is involved. So positives there. Props to you, Sam. Thanks for that. But boo for you for not just saying no to me sooner, or boo for you to not accept the trade I sent you, because I would have appreciated it. But it didn't matter. Algier was just fine. Worked out anyways. But I would appreciate having him the rest of the season as a backup. But it's you and me. We're light on running backs now. It's going to be rough.
Yep. Me and you.
Our next one here is Chris versus Max, with Max favored 139 to 131. But Max got off to a quick start here with Chase Brown on this one. What do you think about this matchup, and do you think Chris has a chance?
I mean, don't know what Puka's going to do this game around, right? If he's fully healthy, we didn't really get to see him at full capacity last week. And then Tyreek, he's such potential to beat 30, 40 points, but both those, they're both playing Monday night. So, they're not going to probably know until the end of Monday.
I think it'll be a fun game too. Hopefully it's the highest scoring game between the Rams and Dolphins, because that'll be a fun one for Chris to be able to watch Puka and Hill just trading touchdowns. That could be entertaining.
Yeah, well, and Kyron's on Max's team, so it's half their points might get scored on Monday.
That's true. I mean, Kyron wasn't good last week, but I think that's more of the outlier. I don't expect him to score 10 points again the rest of the season. He should be over at the rest of the way out. I don't think Chris has much of a shot, to be honest. But I've also said that about Chris a few times, and then he sneaks out a win while somebody else tanks. So we'll see. But I just have a feeling that Max is going to be pretty comfortably in the lead by the time Monday ends.
I mean, Pittsburgh's got a good defense, and he's betting all right. Jaden Daniels and McLaurin have good games. So if for whatever reason the passing game doesn't work, he's, when you have that combo, you're always at risk.
Yeah, Washington has looked good, though. They've been I shouldn't say pretty good. They've been a very good team all year long.
Very good team.
So it's worked out well for them to this point. We'll just have to see if it pays off in the end.
Oh, and he also has the Washington kicker also. Yeah, he's betting big on Washington. Yeah.
I just got to get the Washington defense. Really go all in. Our next matchup here is you versus Katie, with you favored to win 128 to 121 before the week started. And now you're even more favored after another Deontay Johnson dud. What do you think about your prospects this week?
Again, holding on with bye weeks. Like I said, my bench is non-existent. So hopefully Jameson Williams comes back and actually can play well without steroids. Starting Ridley is a tough decision. I feel like he's one of those guys he'll get probably looks, but he had one game where he had like 10 targets and 0 catches. So I'm not sure if he's going to quit mid-game, pull an AJ Brown like he did last season, just quit mid-season. We'll see.
And now that I've cursed Stevenson, you have to go find somebody else because he's going to do really bad. I put it out into the world. He's going to score like 4 points this week. No,
I don't know if
he's going to get 6.5 points. That's the call.
That's a fair guess. The problem is there's no one on the waivers that I can go pick up, and I have no depth to trade away, so I can't pick up another good running back.
No, you really don't have much depth to trade. You have to trade Brees to somebody, but after his dud weeks, I'm not sure if anybody's super excited to pay up for Brees at this point. But
no,
who knows? Maybe there's somebody out there. Get you with the classic 2-for-1. Maybe Brett has one more up his sleeve just to get Brees Hall off your team. Danny loves 2-for-1s, guys. Hit him with all your favorite 2-for-1s, or maybe 3-for-1s or 4-for-1s. I don't know. Just hit him with everything. Just blast him with trade offers until he regrets coming on this podcast and letting me spew nonsense here.
I'm ready.
But yeah, that was a tangent on that one. Are you worried about CMC at all coming back?
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't bring him back, I feel like, unless he was ready to go. They've already waited this long. I feel like, waiting till week 11 versus 10, they know he's ready to go. So I think he'll come back and play really, really well.
The absurd thing is looking at his projections. He's projected for 20 points. I don't think I've seen a projection for anybody to have 20 points all year long. And this guy just shows up. Question marks about his health. Will he play a whole game? I don't know. Is he going to half the snaps? Maybe. But he's going to get 20 points because he's freaking Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. And it's one of those things I mentioned earlier with Kareem Hunt. He isn't banged up, right? As much as he's hurt, he doesn't actually, his shoulder isn't half shattered and his neck isn't twisted and his ribs aren't all bruised. So he's got a lot of options to go run a lot harder too.
That's true. The betting odds I heard for Christian McCaffrey was basically it said a 70% chance he's going to score a touchdown this week, which is crazy if he's only going to get half the snaps. It's like, yeah, he's going to score because they're just going to use him and he's going to score points. So I don't know. That's really Katie's only asset to trade at this point. Maybe Connor that somebody else might want. But after you've held on to CMC this long, you really can't justify trading him after you've waited 10 weeks to even see him in your roster. But you wonder if it's just too little too late for this team.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see with the Munich game. I don't know if that changes things around for Hubbard, but he's had a hell of a season.
He has been good, for sure. And you wonder what's going to happen with, and I'm forgetting his name. Who's the other running back that's got activated?
Brooks.
Jonathan Brooks, yeah. I don't imagine he'll play very much this week, but at a certain point, you expect that maybe he'll start eating into Hubbard's role.
Yeah, although they did just sign Hubbard for some 3-year massive contract extension, so yeah.
Doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally, but again, the Carolina Panthers are a pretty terribly run franchise that makes some awful decisions. So it's par for the course for them, I guess.
Yep.
Our next one here is Alex versus Sam, with Alex favored 125 to 118, but no longer favored that way. Sam got a great start from Burrow, and Alex got a dud from his newly acquired Flowers. So is Alex still a fraud?
I think he's going to start being in trouble. I mean, he's 7-2, so he'll probably squeak into the playoffs still. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be getting that bye week.
I think he's a lock for the playoffs, but I probably agree with you. I think he's going to slip a bit. I mean, still, like you said, Hurts is still the guy you're most scared of coming up against. He's got Hurts, and Cook's been great, and Mixon's been great in certain matchups. So, I mean, he has players. It's just a matter of, is Debo healthy enough to actually play? And does Kyle Pitts put up 2 points again? Or does he go back to playing well like he had in the past? I don't know. And I'm looking at the rest of Alex's team, because you're right, Mason's gone. I think he's pretty much useless the rest of the year. Travis Etienne hurt in a very bad matchup, and maybe not the lead guy anymore. There's nobody else on his bench to play.
Nope.
It's just bare at this point. So he'll have to figure out some people on the waiver wire as well, kind of get deep in there. But he managed to hold 2 defenses instead of picking up somebody else from waivers. So I think he doesn't maybe he doesn't agree with us that he needs to go after some other players. He's very confident in his depth that he can stash a kicker
he's 7-2.
and a defense.
He's 7-2. What can I say? I have no bench depth.
I know. He's 7-2 in numbers, but not 7-2 based on his roster strength. But whatever. It's all right. Alex misses the last small basher today. All right. The beating's over. We'll save it for next week here. Is there anything else you want to add, though, Danny, before we jump into the matchup of the week?
No.
I hadn't picked the matchup of the week before tonight, but after watching Thursday Night Football, it kind of had to be Brett versus Lizzie with the way their team performed. Because it was just massive performances all the way around between Henry, Chase, Lamar, Andrews. All of them had big games. The funniest thing is that Chase outscored both of Lizzie's players tonight, and they both had great games. But
Chase almost had one other touchdown in the game too early on that it didn't get. So putting up a 50 burger, I think it's probably the first of the season. I don't think Kamara may have had like 40 at one game, but I think it's the first 50.
I think so too. And it's funny because like I would say Henry had a good game, but he actually is under projection. So Henry didn't have a good game for his standards. But in the end, it didn't matter because when you get 55 from Chase, it's like you feel like the week's already lost. So Lizzie's she's in a tough spot, but again, lots of good players who could they could come back for. It could be one of those weeks where they both put up like 170, 180 to be the number 1 and 2 teams, and someone's going to go home very upset.
Yeah, and Andrews is looking like the old Andrews. I feel like coming back into his own, playing like Lamar's tight end without likely to, that helps.
I think Andrews was the most targeted player on the team as well with 7 targets, which is, I talked to Brett about this. I'm not sure if it was on the podcast or just the two of us chatting afterwards, but you wondered if Andrews was actually fully healthy when the season started. Because like he had that bad ankle injury last year, which was similar to like what Pollard had to deal with, and he started his season last year very slow before halfway through, kind of like ramping up to speed. And then the bad car accident, like the week before the season started. Like, yes, no injuries, nothing broken, but if it's a bad accident, your body probably hurts all the way around. So maybe he just wasn't fully healthy. Now he's looking great 2 weeks in a row. So if Lizzie has 2 good tight ends, that's going to be interesting because then, maybe she'll get a third to copy your strategy and go for the triple stack.
Let's do it.
I'm not sure who else she'd pick out. She's starting Henry this week too. I didn't realize that. Is Bowers on a bye week?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's such a bummer because I guess she wouldn't. There's no way she would start Henry over Bowers if he was healthy. But that would be funny if she does that of Henry, Bowers, Andrews in her lineup here.
I like it.
With how bad Harrison's been, maybe he's a better prospect than Harrison. Harrison's kind of looking like a dud the past couple weeks.
Yeah, surprising because surprising though, just with how well he started out. I think it's just Kyler Murray's inconsistency is tough.
It's definitely what it is. I mean, because he should be good, but Kyler plays too much Call of Duty, so it's all over for him. Anything else you want to add in before we wrap this up this week? Anything you want to say about the league? How it's your favorite league? How I'm your favorite commissioner? How we do such a great job that all your other leagues are put to shame? Anything like that you want to say?
It's just been fun having to go in full circle, getting Brett back in the league. Like we've been through that many years that we've dropped people and picked people back up from back in the day. So good to have some more smack talkers in the league, and excited for the rest of the season.
And I saw Kelly at Halloween a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned like how he was like semi-bummed to be out of the league, especially now that like we're doing the podcast and like doing more fun stuff. He's like, maybe if you have an opening in the future, I'll come back. I'm like, you left us. You're dead to me. No coming back, Kelly. You're out. But we'll see. It's Brett Johnson's also harassing me to go find 2 new members to expand our league to 12. Because apparently a 10-team league is a little bit too weak for him, and he wants more suckers to trade with. But
apparently, I actually saw
2 more
Brett.
friends, Danny.
Nice, yeah. I saw Brett at the museum last weekend. So now that we're hanging out in Denver,
at the museum, like, did you guys plan to go to the museum? Or just
yes, we plan to go. Yes, we plan to go to the museum.
That really says something about how desperate you are for friends in Colorado, Danny. You're so desperate for friends that you're willingly hanging out with Brett Johnson. That really is like, that's coming full circle of like, you dealt with Trevor in college. You said never again, booted Trevor, and now you're stuck with his brother. So who's worse, Trevor or Brett?
It's too close to call.
Probably true. All right. Well, let's not bash these 2 any further. We're gonna call this. But thanks for joining. I appreciate you subbing in for Brett this week, and I think it's been decided your beard is far more magnificent than his. Brett, figure it out this week.
Tim, thanks for having me. Good chat, and see y'all in the fantasy.
Good luck this week, everybody. Talk soon.